Hey everyone, part two. You should be looking at this on either Thursday or Friday, the 12th and 13th. We're getting ready for our test. We're focused on some elimination. Go ahead, take a second and try to find this in your packet. It's past where we were working on before, so like lesson 9. This is approaching lesson. This is like lesson 10. Okay. These problems are not super helpful for our practice and test prep. I'll try to make some right here, but let me just give you a quick overview. When you're graphing two lines, the solution is right here. That's where two lines meet. Everyone should understand that. That's where two lines meet. That's the solution. However, sometimes there's a scenario where they don't meet. And if that's the situation, there's no solution. And that's when there's like two parallel lines, right? And you can typically spot that at the same slopes. No solution. Okay. There's also a third scenario. This one's weird, but if you draw a line, and let's just say this line is y equals, 2x. And it goes, right through the origin, let's just say, okay? And then I say, hey, graph this line too. And you're like, bro, it's the same line. But it would be the same line on top, right? So it's two lines identical laid on top of each other. So if I asked you, hey, where do those lines meet? They would meet on every single point because it's the same line. And that is, by definition, infinity. So there's infinite solutions, okay? So in your brain, I just need you to know that there's either going to be a solution, which is going to be a coordinate, an XY coordinate, or they don't meet and there's no solution, or they're identical and there's infinite solutions. The ones on your test are going to be these ones. Now, the ones in your packet right now, your packet's trying to introduce to you either of these two scenarios. And they're doing that in the form of these problems over here. Now, if you look carefully at these problems, these are very similar. You still have to know, okay, how do I cancel out the X? How do I cancel out my Y? Like what can I do to get rid of my letters? So I'm gonna multiply the top of this one by something that's gonna get me a -4. I want a -4x, but it's right now it's a 2x. So what can I multiply inside to get a -4x? And the answer is -2. But look what happens when we multiply everything by -2. Not only do you get the -4x, but look what happens to this one. -2 times 3y is -6y. See how that's going to cancel that too? And then look at this one. -2 times 14. It's going to be -28. Isn't that crazy? Now look, the 4x's do cancel, but guess what else cancels? And guess what else cancels? So everything cancels. That's crazy. That is by definition the infinite, okay? So this problem right here, this is infinity because these lines are identical, okay? Now, if you come down here, you're going to see that this one is no solution. So, same scenario. You still need to multiply in, right? I need -9x, but right now I have 3x. How do I make it -9x? I multiply by -3. But when I do that, both of these will cancel. See, negative 3 times 3 is negative 9x. Negative 3 times 2y is negative 6y. However, look at the last one. Negative 3 times 20 equals negative 60. And so you will cancel this and cancel this, but these don't cancel. And this is where zero, like no solution comes in. So you end up with 0 equals this value here, so which is negative 24. And 0, it does not equal negative 24. This is not true. And so that, by definition, is no solution. And so that means you have two parallel lines. Two parallel lines with different starting places, and they do not meet. Okay? So that's my little, like, where this packet is going. You also have these two problems right here. These problems are great. Really, really good. Great practice. But they're hard. They're difficult. They're difficult. Okay? So it's going to take a lot of steps. And none of those are on the test. Okay? These are the most difficult ones. I will show you how to do these ones, but they're not on your exam next week. You have to find a common denominator. So let's just say I want to get rid of x, and I have 3x and 5x, and it's like, well, what can I multiply 3 by to get 5? No, that's the wrong. There's nothing. The answer is actually 5/3, but that's crazy. Don't multiply by 5/3. But you can come over here and like list out, 3, like count your 3s, right? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and then count your 5s. 5, 10, 15. And you see that the common relationship they have is 15. So what you want to do is you want to turn one of these into negative 15x and one of them into 15x. So we'll turn the top into negative 15x by multiplying by a negative 5. But we're going to move the bottom to a 15x, which means I have to write two new equations, okay? That's going to be lots of multiplying, like lots. And I end up with, and I'll just speed through this here, negative 15x minus 20y equals negative 115. That's the top. The bottom now is 15x plus 9y equals 93. And now the 15x's cancel, right? And I'm going to add these two values. I get negative 11. I'm going to add these two values. I get negative 22. I'm over here doing this right here. Divide by negative 11 on both sides. I end up with y equals 2. And it's a lot of work just to get half the answer. So I'm not going to continue. If you'd like to continue, just plug 2 into this right here, which you get 8, and then do 23 minus 8, and then divide that by 3, and you'll have what x is. I'm going to come down here and just show you one more of the tough ones. Let's get rid of the y's. Let's find a common denominator. Let's find a common number. So 2, 4, 6, 3, 6. All right, 6 is our common number. So let's get the top to be negative 6 by multiplying by negative 3, because that will be negative 6. And let's get the bottom to be positive 6 by multiplying by 2. Okay, so the same process happens. Multiply, multiply, multiply. All right, so negative 3 times 4x is negative 12x, and negative 3 times 2y is negative 6y, And negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. That's the new top. The bottom is 10x plus 6y equals 18. And now I draw a line, I add, and you'll see that the y's cancel. And we're going to work this problem here, which is negative 2x. And we're going to work this problem here, which is negative 6. So I have negative 2x equals negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 2. And I get x equals 3. And I'm not going to plug it in for you, but you can if you feel like you want to. But you would take the 3 and put it right here. It'd be 4 times 3 is 12. And then you would take 8 minus 12. You get negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2. You get, that would be the answer. Okay? But what I'd like to do is show you that your packet is really wanting you, let's turn the page. They really want you to practice infinity and no solution. And those aren't on your test, okay? So, look, you can just spot them. If you look carefully, you can just spot them. Like, you see how this is a third? Look at it. See? It's the same line. It's just a third less. It's just a third less, okay? So, you're looking at like multiplying this whole thing by negative 3, right? But if you did that, everything would cancel. And I just got done saying that if everything cancels, that's infinity. Okay, so right now your textbook here is wanting you to recognize when something is infinity and when something is no solution. Let's see what this one is. What can I cancel? Let's say you want to get rid of this 18. It says negative 18y. This is 3y. What would you have to multiply in to get rid of that? And the answer is 6. But guess what happens if you multiply everything by 6? Watch. Negative 30x, positive 18y, and negative 42. Now look, everything cancels, which is the same thing as infinity. So I don't want to do any more infinity and no solution work because you don't have those on your test. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to give you some stuff that you're going to actually have. So let's keep going. Now this is on your test for sure. And you've been taught this. And we've practiced this. So remember your notes. Cover and divide. We're going to make an X and Y axis. We're going to do that for both of them. All right, you made your X and Y axis. You should do that. And now we're going to cover and divide. If you want to pause it and try it yourself before I show you, you can. Now's the time to pause. If you're not pausing, then we're rolling, okay? So you take your finger and you cover this. And then what are you dividing? What divided by what? It's going to be 12 divided by 4. I like to write a little note. 12 divided by 4. And that's what y equals, okay? And 12 divided by 4 is 3, so y is 3. Now what do you do with y is 3? Well, you go up to 3 on the y, and you put a dot. Now cover the other one. See? 12 divided by negative 6. 12 divided by negative 6. And that's what x is. And you can do that in your calculator. 12 divided by -6. That's -2. So you go to the x and you go to -2. Okay, now is the time to ask if it's dotted or solid. Take a look. It is solid. If you're in the room and you're watching this video and you don't know how to tell dotted or solid, just remember this is dotted and this one is solid. And you can have that note right there, or you can pause it and get that note. All right, now the last step is to shade. How do we shade? Well, what do we plug in to shade? Plug in 0, 0 to see which side to shade. You already know that. You don't have to write that if you already know that. But if I plug 0, 0 here, they're both going to disappear. 0, 0, they're gone. So it's just 0 is greater than or equal to 12. Is 0 bigger than 12? No. False. And when it's false, where do I shade? False shades away from the origin. So we're just going to shade over here. And if you're somebody who tried this before you saw it, hopefully you can check your work and see that you got it right. Okay. If you'd like to try the next one on your own, right now, go ahead and pause. All right, let's do this. All right, so we're going to cover and divide. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So you go to 1 on the y. 6 divided by 6, y is 1. Next, you cover this one. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so you go to x is 3. Now you draw a, look right here. That's a dotted line. Okay. Now on the test, a lot of 8th graders forget to do the dotted line. It's not natural to remember, so you just have to practice. Dotted line. And which way do we shade? Well, we plug in 0, 0. So 0 is less than 6. Is that true or false? It's true. So we're going to shade with the origin. The origin's down here. So hopefully yours looks like this. And if you did, good job. You learned that. And you remember what I said about your grade, right? If you know how to graph everything, that's a C. If you can do some substitution, that's a B. And if you can do some elimination, that's an A. All right, moving on. Flip it over. We don't want to work these if they're infinity or no solution, because you're not going to have infinity or no solution. I'm looking for specific ones that we can practice. Okay. If you look carefully, see how this is 4 times bigger. See, 4 times this is 4 times this and 4 times this. So if I multiply a -4 in here, I will completely cancel everything. This is infinity. Okay. And it's okay to have infinity. I don't have you solving anything infinity. You might graph something that's infinity, but that's okay. Remember, I taught you how to graph something that's infinity, right? So, remember the 3? If the graph looks like this, there's only one solution, and it's right there, right? One solution. And if I have you graph something that's parallel, there's no solution. And then the third one is infinity. So how do you graph something that's infinity? Well, it would be something that looks like this. Take this problem, for example. I mean, look, 36 divided by 12 is 4x. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 36 divided by 4 is 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you just graph this, it looks like that, okay? And if I were to put a line through it, right? There's my line. So the question for the group would be, what if I were to graph this? How do I graph this? Same, cover and divide. So look, if I cover this up, what's y equal? Y equals 9. Well, I already have that dot, it's right there. Oh, what if I did this one, cover? 9 divided by, 9 divided by 3 is 3, oh. And 36 divided by 12 is also 3, so my line's off. But, infinity. They're the same. 9 divided by 3 is 3, 36 divided by 12 is 3, 36 divided by 4 is 9, 9 is 9 right there. So there's only 2 dots, and you actually will have a test problem, okay, that looks like that, okay? So maybe make a note that you'll have a test, one of those, okay? You're not going to have to solve it to be infinity, but you're going to have to graph it, and it might be infinity, okay? Here's another one. Take a look. What do you notice? 5x, 10x. See how it's double? 3y, 6y. See how it's double? 7, 14. See how it's all double? Automatically, that's infinity, okay? Now, if you want to go through the steps and be like, all right, so, I'm going to times -2 to everything, right? Then you get negative 10x and negative 6y and negative 14. And they all cancel, and that's infinity. If you want to put it on a graph, it'll still show up the same line twice. Okay. And even though 7 divided by 3 is a decimal and 7 divided by 5 is a decimal, it's the same decimal as 14 divided by 6 and 14 divided by 10. Okay. Let's skip 3. Let's go to 4. Do you see any patterns with 4? Do you see how that's 3 times bigger? And that's 3 times bigger? So the question is that 3 times bigger? And I'm going to go ahead and say yes. So this is infinity. Because I would multiply everything by a -3, right? And I mean negative 21x and negative 12y and negative 168. And cancel. Infinity. Okay. This is multiplying this by 2 would cancel this. Multiplying this by 2 would cancel that. Multiplying this by 2 would cancel that. So it's infinity. Okay. Now let's just do something to practice for your test, okay? Because I think you're going to have this on your test. Okay? On test. Okay, we'll make this video worth something versus what it is right now, which is garbage. Sorry. Let's practice for your test. So we're going to make a little graph right here. And let's put number 5 here on the graph. How do you do that? Well, we cover and divide, right? So we're going to cover this up, and 16 divided by 4 is what? Is 4. So I'm going to go to my graph, and I'm going to go to 4 on the y and put a dot, and that's where that dot goes. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now do it again for the x. Cover and divide. 16 divided by 8, that's 2. So we'll go to 2 on the x, and we'll put a dot. And now we're going to graph it. So everyone has this, okay? Now, do the other one, okay? But watch this. This is really important. It's identical, which is why it's infinity. So I want you to see something, okay? So if I cover this up and I do my calculator, -8 divided by -2, it will also be 4, which is the same spot right there, okay? And if I cover this up and do -8 divided by -4, it will also be 2, which is that spot, which means that these lines fall on top of each other, which means it's the same line. It's the same line. And if you're graphing something that's identical, the answer is infinite. It's infinite solutions. It's infinity. Okay, so that's on your test. I want you to be aware of that. I hope you get this one right on your test. Okay. Moving on, I just hope it's easier for you to spot this. I'll let you do 6 on your own. I believe 6 is also infinity, but you might have to see how many times bigger that is and just look at it, okay? I'm going to turn the page here. If you want to do 6, you can pause it. All right, let's go to number 20. This is great practice for us. In fact, you don't need me at all for this. So I'll do 2 with you, but I'm not going to do more than that because you guys are so good at this now. So let's make an X and Y axis. If you want to challenge yourself, you can pause the video and work these 2 problems and then check and see if you're right. Cover and divide. That's how you do it. We're going to cover this up and divide 12 divided by -4, which is -3. So I'm going to go to -3 on the y. Then I'm going to cover this up and do 12 divided by 3, which is 4x. So I'm going to put 4 right here. I'm going to look right here to see if it's solid or dotted. This one is solid. Graph that, and now it's time to see where to shade. Plug in 0, 0. So 0 is greater than or equal to 12. Is 0 bigger than 12? It's not bigger than 12. So that's false. And we're shading away from the origin. See if you did that right. One more of those. Make the X and Y. Cover and look. 6 divided by 6 is 1, so Y is 1. Cover and look. X is 6, so go right to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it dotted or solid? This one's dotted. And let's see how to shade. 0, 0. 0 is less than 6. 0 is less than 6. That's true. So we're going to shade with the origin, which is down. And let's see who had that, right? If you got them both right on your own, nice job. Turn the page there. There's more to do. Oftentimes, if you look at this one, you can't see it. Where's the equation? It's at the bottom, right? It's right here. 6x plus 5y is greater than 1. 6x plus 5y. 6x plus 5y is greater than 1. You can write that. Try to solve it. X and Y, cover and divide. This one's going to be weird because it's like 1/5 and 1/6. So it's going to be terribly small. I think if I was showing you 1/5 and 1/6, they're just, it's kind of weird, but 1/5 is Y, so, you know, there. And then 1/6, so there. And this one's going to be dotted. I think it's important just to recognize that because it's 1/5 and 1/6, it is really small, but it is above the origin. So 0 is greater than 1 is false. So 0 is greater than 1 is false. So we will shade away from the origin, and that would be up here, shade up here. Okay. I only did that one because 1/5 and 1/6 is pretty ridiculous. This one should be straightforward. 3 divided by a half, that's 3 divided by negative half, that's -6, and 3 divided by, you know, nothing, so 3. And then down here, you guys got this. You can put both of these on here and do the double shaded. You got that. Let's see what else. Also another double shaded. We got some systems. Lesson 11 systems. I want you pause here to do these 2, 3 problems and see if you can get them right on your own. Okay? Go ahead and pause. Did you pause it? You gotta pause it. Hey. Did you pause it? the same thing. Why am I doing the same thing twice? Less than 2, greater than 5, less than 2. Oh, less than 5? Oh, they switched to inequality. Okay. Dotted. Less than 2 is true. And less than 5 is also true. They're both true. So they both shade towards the origin. But it'll be double shaded right there. Next part, lesson 11. All right, let's get ready for your test. Solving by elimination, looking for that A. Going for an A. In that first problem, what should we get rid of? Let's get rid of the X's. Great idea. Good suggestion. But how? They're both 3x. 3x plus 3x is 6x. I don't want 6x. I want 0x. How do I get 0? Well, you're going to have to multiply a negative 1 into the top. And that changes the sign on everything. So now you have negative 3x, a positive y, and a negative 1. And now those 3x's do cancel. This becomes 3y. And this is 16 minus 1 becomes 15. And now you're going to divide both sides by 3. And y equals 5. You take that 5 and you plug it in either equation. I'll choose the bottom, okay? So 3x plus 2y equals 16. That's the equation I'm plugging in. And I'm going to put 5 in for y. 2 times 5 is 10. And now I'm going to subtract 10. 3x equals 6. Divide by 3. X equals 2. I have 2. I have 5. And now I'm ready for my solution. My solution is 2, 5. That's my solution. All right, we're going to try the next one. Feel free to pause if you're ready to try it on your own, or if you get stuck, you can always just press play. But the step 1 is to determine which letter you want to get rid of, okay? Now in this case, I want to get rid of x, but how do I do that? I need a negative 3x here, but that's not negative 3x, that's just x. So what do I multiply into x to get negative 3x? That's the question. And the answer is negative 3. But whatever you multiply to one thing, you have to multiply it to all the things. So my new equation is negative 3x, negative 6y, and a negative 15. And now those 3x's cancel, but this becomes negative y, and this becomes negative 1. So I have negative y equals negative 1. And I'm going to divide by a negative 1 on both sides, and y is 1. And that's half my answer. I got 1. Now I need my x. So I'm going to use the top. See that top equation? It says x plus 2y equals 5. X plus 2y equals 5. And I'm going to throw the 1 right there. X plus 2 times 1 equals 5. 2 times 1 is 2. So x plus 2 equals 5. Subtract 2 on both sides. And the answer is x equals 3. So you go back up, you throw the 3 in there, and I have my solution. And these problems are on your tests. You will need these. These are great test practice, for sure. Especially number 3. Look at that. Because you can already just, look at it, you can just cancel. So pause it if you want to just cancel and just go. You have to do this math on your own and this math on your own. Let's see who can do it. Did you pause it? 4x plus x is 5x equals negative 15. Divide 5 on both sides. And you get x equals negative 3. And that's only half of our answer. I need to plug it back in and get y. So I'll use the top equation. 4x plus 2y equals negative 8. That's the top equation. Now plug in your answer for negative 3 for x. And make sure you don't plug it into the wrong letter, okay? So 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. And now I'm going to add 12 to both sides. And I have 2y equals 4, because negative 8 plus 12 is 4. Divide both sides by 2, and I have 2. Y is 2. Go back here, write the answer. There's my solution. Done. Okay. I'm going to let you work 4 and 5. Now 4 and 5, I'll give you the hint. You need to multiply the top by a negative 1 on both 4 and 5. And there's not a lot of room, so I'll even write down the first step done over here fresh, okay? So number 4 can go there, and number 5 I'll put there. So number 4, after I multiply the negative 1 in, I have negative 3x minus 3y equals negative 2. And on bottom is 3x minus 4y equals negative 14. So let's see who can add those together from here by crossing off those first, okay? And then on 5, I have negative x minus 2y minus 11. And the bottom is x minus 4y equals 2. And we will see who can add those together and solve. So pause it here if you'd like a chance to do these on your own. I mean, right away, I'm looking for if people know like how to do this. right? What does that equal? Negative 7y, right? And what's this equal? Negative 16. And then what's this equal? Negative 6y. And what's this equal? Negative 9. Both of these are going to be fractions, so they're pretty nasty. I'm not going to make you do any more than that because we don't have it on the test. I'm not making you do weird fractions on the test. So let's move on and let's look at 6 and see if 6 is something we can do. If I multiply the top by negative 3 to cancel here, then that's negative 6x, negative 3y, and 0 still. Yeah, I think that's doable. Yeah. Because you'll end up with negative x equals 1. And you'll divide both sides by negative 1, and you'll have x equals negative 1. And if I tell you x is negative 1, you can plug that in right there. 2 times negative 1 plus y equals 0. Negative 2 plus y equals 0. Add 2 to both sides. Y equals 2. I have my solution, negative 1 comma 2. So that's a good one also, but 4 and 5 are buns, so you cannot do that. Turn the page. I don't need this page done. There is a system on the bottom that you can solve if you want to plug these in. This is by substitution. You'll have this on the test. This is a test problem. We plug them into each other, so this 3x minus 3, and it equals negative 3x plus 3. And now we solve for x. And we do that by, and you can pause it if you want to solve for x by yourself. But you add 3x to both sides, and you add 3 out of there. So those are gone and those are gone. And you end up with 6x equals 6. Divide by 6 on both sides. X equals 1. What do you do now? You pick one of these, okay? I'll pick the top. Y equals 3x minus 3. You put 1 in for x. 3 times 1 minus 3. That's 3 minus 3. So y is 0. And your answer is 1 comma 0. That's your solution. Next page, pause it if you need to. Stare at it longer. Let's go with, let's do, I see. There's some graphs. Go ahead and, I mean, you don't need me for these. These are graphing. This is straightforward. You could put this guy, this one, you can put it right here. Draw your x and y axis and throw it on there. Try to find a solution. And the solution is going to be x comma y. So don't forget that. So make a space for your solution. This one is scrambled a little bit, so I'll help you unscramble it so that you can put it on here. Basically, we need to move this 3x. And that's it. Now it's unscrambled, so it looks like this. So I will write down the two equations that you need to take this and put them on the grid, okay? And you can put those right there. Good? Everyone's happy? Okay, please do that. The last one, you can take this. These are in standard form. So we talked about cover and divide. I really don't like that they don't like 7 is going to be, that's going to work and that's going to work, but it won't work over here. So let me choose something different than 7. Let me choose 8. Let me choose 8. And then this one, I'm going to choose 18. You see that? Can I get a holler? Can I get an amen? You got it? Okay, so basically 8 divided by 4. Now that'll work. And 8 divided, right? So that'll work. Okay, this will be -8, this will be 2, this will be 9, and this will be 6, right? So why don't you throw that right there? Okay. And your final one, let's practice an infinity one so that way you can practice for the test again. Okay, so I'll just make this up. 3x plus 6y equals 12, and then I'll just make this like, you know, negative x and negative 2y equals negative 4. Let me just verify that. Times 3 cancel, times 3 cancel, times 3 cancel. Okay, yeah, it works. So what I want you to do is make XY table, cover and divide, and put those on there so you can see what that looks like, and then write the solution. But we already know what the solution is going to be, right? Because I just said it in the video. Okay, have fun with that. Do that on your own. You should be good to go. That's the end of this packet, and we've reached the end before you ready to review and take your test. So thank you.